The SlickTools AG Bender turns rolls of wire mesh into rigid, durable channels. The main application for these wire mesh channels is in Solar Animal Guard, or AG for short. This video covers how to use the Bender. If you'd like to learn how to install Animal Guard, we've got some other great resources on our website. Check the serial tag underneath your AG Bender. This video is for benders starting with R7. Instructions for other models are on our website. Here's a glossary of the key Bender parts. Our first step is to anchor the machine. You'll be pulling material away from the machine during use, so it needs to be held in place. The strut channel towards the rear of the machine should be firmly attached to an immobile object. There are a lot of ways to do this. You can screw it into a bench or a vehicle, strap it to something at the job site, or attach it using a SlickTools anchoring accessory. No matter how you do it, follow these 3 rules. First, ensure it's securely attached with no chance of coming loose. Second, position it a few feet off the ground to avoid back strain. And third, make sure there's at least 10 feet of space in front of the machine with no trip or fall hazards. Never use the machine on a roof. Next, we'll set the profile width. For this, you'll need to know the size of the roof-to-array gap you're trying to fill. Measure the array at a few locations. You'll want the mesh profile width to be about a ½ inch smaller than the roof-to-array gap. Loosen the 2 red knobs 1 turn, slide the frame tube until it lines up with your desired bend width, and tighten the knobs. It's important to use one of the ½ inch increments shown on the scale. Do not leave the frame tube in between 2 settings. Now we'll set the bend angle. The machine can make 1 or 2 bends in the wire mesh, and each can be set to between about 45 and 90 degrees. Different roof types, racking systems, and attachment methods call for different angles, but typically you'll want 2 bends just under 90 degrees so that there's a bit of a spring fit when you install the Animal Guard. Adjust the angle of the bend on each side by loosening the angle adjust knob and rotating the angle adjustment arm. For a 90-degree bend, rotate the arm all the way in. For any smaller angle, rotate it out. You'll be able to fine-tune these angles once you've started bending material. Next, we'll load material into the machine. These steps are also printed on the machine for quick reference. Adjust each spindle adapter for a tight fit inside the roll of mesh. Typically, you'll only do this setup 1 time unless you switch wire mesh vendors. Repeat for both sides. Fold over the free end of mesh inside the roll so that it'll catch on the spindle adapter. This helps prevent runaway uncoiling. Repeat for both sides. Insert the adapters, then the spindle. Now take a close look at the wires on the outside of the roll. There are long wires running around the whole roll and short wires running sideways. If the roll is wound with the short wires on the outside of the roll, we call it Type A mesh. If the roll is wound with long wires on the outside, we call it Type B. Depending on your type of mesh, orient the roll as shown before loading it into the machine. There are 2 guides on the spindle that should straddle one of the support brackets. Push the spindle into the bracket until you feel a solid pop on both sides. Straighten out any stray wires at the leading edge of the material so it doesn't jam in the machine. For a Type A roll, guide the free end out from underneath the roll, around the gears, and thread it a couple inches into the machine, just enough so it stays in place. For a Type B roll, the leading edge comes down from above, wraps a 1/4 turn around the gear, and feeds into the machine. Align the mesh roll by sliding it left or right on the spindle. Then tighten the thumb screws on the spindle adapters. From the front of the machine, use the included hook to reach into the machine and pull the material through. The machine is now primed and ready to go. Before bending material, I like to measure out the length of piece I want, usually about 10 feet, and leave a marker on the ground so I know how far to pull. Using the hook, grab onto the mesh and pull out as much material as you want. Cut the mesh where it exits the bender. I suggest cutting the sides first, allowing a gap to open up so it's easier to cut the middle. Stack the cut piece out of the way and you're ready to bend the next piece. That covers the basics. Now here are some other pointers. If you've finished a job and want to leave material in the bender, secure it with a bungee cord so it doesn't uncoil during transport. Material cannot go backwards through the machine, so if you want to remove the roll, cut it where it enters the machine and pull out the short piece left inside. The bend width cannot be adjusted while there is material inside the machine. The angle can be adjusted with material in the machine. It will just take a little extra force. You can make an L-shaped profile with a single bend by adjusting the machine width so that the unbent edge of the mesh is just barely engaged with the gear on that side. The material will be supported on that side but not actually bent. Wire mesh rolls have a tendency to uncoil while on the spindle, which can be a pain if there's limited space around the machine. To limit uncoiling, you can tighten the set screws in the spindle support brackets. Tightening the screws will make the mesh less likely to uncoil, but will make it slightly harder to pull material through the machine.